So Chance the Rapper sent out a tweet yesterday that made everyone's heads kind of explode for a variety of reasons. Let's go ahead and throw that up on the screen. So he asked the question, are you more pro-Biden or anti-yay, and why? I get that you'll want to reply that you're just trying to get rid of Trump. But in this hypothetical scenario where you're replacing Trump, can someone explain why Joe Biden would be better?
Uh-oh, he's asking some tough questions here. And the interesting, look, I have not seen a pylon like this in a long time.
Well, but there's so many. You've got the Kanye,
Yes.
you've got the Biden and Trump. I mean, it's just
amazing.
touched a lot of hot buttons there.
Professional. People came after him. They were like, "Oh, he doesn't understand how the presidency works. He doesn't understand." For asking basic questions once again and being like, "I don't actually understand what this Biden guy is all about," and it just echoes a sentiment where if you even are willing to question it, you get ridiculed, just destroyed on Twitter. And that's essentially what happened here. He finally said, I finally got the answer. I understand. Y'all trust Biden more than y'all trust Ye. I think I understand why. I just don't feel the same way. The funny thing, though, is that Terry Crews jumped in on his behalf and he said, okay. He's like, I understand the improbability and I understand everyone voting for Biden isn't doing so enthusiastically. I am for black liberation and do not accept my recent endorsement from Terry Crews. So,
fair enough.
A little bit of a internecine fight there, which I think is funny.
It is funny.
I mean, broadly, it's just what bothers me is the vitriol that is directed at Chance the Rapper, at Terry Crews, at Sean Combs. So many of these people who just come out, Diddy, who just come out and just say, you know what, I'm going to hold on. Or Charlamagne the God.
Charlamagne got a lot of pushback just for asking him in an interview tough questions.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. No, this is what drives me crazy. Nobody owes you their vote. You are not owed anybody's vote. If you want to lecture him and say, hey, you don't understand policy or whatever, hey, what you want, might be able to get better in a Biden administration, fine. But Chance says very clearly, he goes, I don't trust that it would be any different. And that's actually something that you can't lecture somebody on.
Yeah.
You have to accept his viewpoint as valid and then convince him differently.
Well, that's the thing, is all the outrage is at him rather than at a candidate who apparently has not done an effective job of outlining how they might be an improvement over the status quo. And look, I don't necessarily agree with the perspective that they're the same. I think that's too simplistic.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You can look at different areas. On trade, Trump, I actually prefer his approach in general. I think Biden would be marginally better on things like climate, on things like the court. Even, apparently at this point on economics, Biden is moving at least a little bit to the left of Trump, which is a pathetically low bar. But on foreign policy, there are differences. There are differences, but the fact that you even have to ask that question is a sad state of affairs for the Biden team.
Yes.
That's not on Chance the Rapper. And the other piece that it just makes me laugh, honestly, the level of fragility among these people that you're not allowed to even articulate a view that is outside of Trump bad, Biden good, clear cut, end of story. They melt down. Look, if you want people to be enthusiastic about voting for your person and really clearly see that they have a different vision, then get behind somebody who might have better articulated that, push the Biden people to be better rather than piling on here. But I actually thought in terms of a substantive response to why someone who is on the left might back Biden over Trump, I actually thought Angela Davis had a good response to this. Let's take a listen.
I don't see this election as being about choosing a candidate who will be able to lead us in the right direction. It will be about choosing a candidate who can be most effectively pressured into allowing more space for the evolving anti-racist movement. Biden is very problematic in many ways. He is not only in terms of his past and the role that he played in pushing toward mass incarceration, but he has indicated that he is opposed to disbanding the police. And this is definitely what we need. We need to reconceptualize the very notion of public safety.
And the thing that I responded to with this is it sort of echoed some of the thinking. She says it much more clearly than I think I've been able to. But, in that moment when the protests were at full swing And President Trump goes in the Rose Garden and he says we might invoke the Insurrection Act, and the military police come in and they're, gassing and shooting rubber bullets at the peaceful protesters that are out there. Biden, I'm not going to say he's perfect on these issues. He's not. You can just ask the folks at Standing Rock. But what she's getting at there is that if you want someone who's at least going to be open to pressure that you have some chance with, that it's not like let's call in the military and let's shoot rubber bullets at them, then Biden is a better bet. And look, again, it's a low bar, ultimately. I'm not excited about any of the choices this November, but I think she makes probably the best case for Biden from the left that exists.
Yeah, I mean, she basically, she's looking at it how I kind of look at politics as well. It's like you got to choose the person who's the best vehicle for the marginal amount of what you're going to get at a certain point. That's how people make political choices. I don't begrudge her. I think it's perfectly legitimate. I mean, there is something a little funny to watch, an avowed communist and Marxist agitator who's like, yeah, I'm voting for Joe Biden, the sleepiest person that's out there. And you're like, wow, a lot of the stuff you were saying in the past doesn't necessarily square with this one. I'm not saying it's hypocritical necessarily. Again, I even respect the decision.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny to see this come to pass.
Yeah. I mean, I think it speaks to something we've talked a lot about here, which is this existential feeling about this moment. And so people are trying to grapple with that as best they can.
Yeah, it's interesting.
All right, more Rising for you after this.